Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Transmigrated in Bleach World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I will be using the second most popular among the fanfics on the previous poll as the replacement for the series What If Transmigrated in Bleach World. As such, please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 196, Sports, 3. General POV. The second quarter ended with the Seahawks still in the lead, 34-21. Edwards' Dolphins managed to land 2 touchdowns, 1 extra point for kick, and 2 points from extra point play. The referee blew the whistle, and both teams went back to their bench for a short 12-minute break. With sweat falling down his face, Edward took off his helmet and then looked into the crowd. As he saw familiar faces waving at him, he broke into a smile and waved towards them. Countless camera light flashed on him, from the fanatical fans that carried a professional camera to capture his figure. Edward had to look away from the audience because his eyes started to hurt. Taylor skedaddled into the field bringing a fresh towel and a drink for Edward. "That was awesome," she said with elation as she hugged Edward's arm abruptly. "Do you want a rub down?" she asked. Edward smiled, not knowing that one teenage await, 2 teenage girls no. A whole lot of teenage girls were seething in anger as they wished they could take over Taylor's job. Haley scowled and crossed her arms together. "I could have been there if I came here early." Jenna smiled with her lips, but her eyes were murderous. Selena pursed her lips and then started to imagine being in Taylor's position, in which she slapped herself lightly to make sure never to think something like that again. Edward was drinking some water from a water bottle when the school principal walked towards him with a sullen expression. Edward smirked and said, "So I won the bet." Yeah. I will keep my word and let you change the team's name, but definitely not Devil Bats." He then whispered in disbelief, "It has devil in it." "Do you want my head to fall? I kinda want to see that," Edward said with a serious tone. The principal froze, and Edward laughed after. "I was just joking." "Alright, so no devil, so how about Demon Bat?" "No? Beelzbat? Badmostius?" The principal sweat heavily as if he was the one who had just played on the field. Tyler heard the discussion and interrupted, "Oh. Principal Brown. If you let me retake Spanish, then I'm sure that I can keep Edward in check. After all, I'm the captain dash." Edward ignored the fake captain and said, "Alright. From now on, the team will be named Blood Bat." "Oh, Vampire Bat, is it like Twilight?" Jacob asked with an innocent face. Edward scowled in disdain as he looked at Jacob and said in a disappointed tone, "You ruined it. We will discuss the new name after the game." Edward then clapped as he stood in front of his team. "Everyone huddle up. We're going to make some changes in the second half. First, Jacob, you won't be playing center anymore." Jacob dropped his head down in depression. Edward saw it and added, "Don't get me wrong. It's not that you didn't do a good job, but it is a waste of your arm reach. A center needs to be the anchor, Fat, you don't really have that requirement, but you did it anyway." Tyrone held Jacob's shoulder to cheer him up. Jacob sighed as he thought he was going to get benched, but he was startled when he heard Edward's next sentence. "For the second half, you're going to be a defensive tackle and guard our line of scrimmage for defense, and a wide receiver during offense." "Wait. Ed." Edward held his hand towards Jacob to stop him. "I know what you're going to say. But I believe you can do it." The team only had 22 players, and 7 of them were not yet ready for an official match. Therefore they were really short on players that could fill the position. "Why is this necessary? We're doing great now." Tyler asked in confusion and also in an effort to ease the atmosphere. Yeah. It is great, for you. But not the team if we want to win this. Edward said before he reminded Tyler, don't get overblown ego when you scored 3 touchdowns. That will only make you targeted in the second half. Get ready for some intensive blockings. Tyler gulped his saliva and raised his arms up meekly before asking, can I just get benched for the rest of the game? Dream on. Edward sneered. Cam walked forward and then called the wide receivers. Tyrone is stable, but Jacob, you need to learn your routes. Edward interrupted, Cam. This guy doesn't work like that. Listen up, Jacob. All you need to do is listen to my orders and move exactly in the way I told you to. Got that? Jacob turned to Cam and then turned to Edward again. His complicated expression cleared up and he finally said, okay. Got it. Cam sighed helplessly, but inside, he agreed with Edward's decision. As the referee called both teams to get back into the field, Edward turned to look at the crowd once more. He moved closer to the bleachers and called, Phil. My dad isn't here? Phil was excited at first, but as he heard Edward's question, he turned to look around and said carefully, he might be here. This place is big. You know what? I'm going to look for him. Claire also looked around and said, I'll call him. Never mind. Don't bother him. Just watch the game. Edward said with a shrug. The crowd cheered as Edward jogged lightly to get into position. They will start the game with a kickoff. The Seahawks won the coin toss in the beginning, and they chose to let the Dolphins kick the ball to them. That's how they become the offensive team in the beginning. In the second half, the Seahawks will be the one to kick the ball to the Dolphins, giving them a chance to score a touchdown on the beginning of the game, which would be impossible given how tight the defense was during a kickoff. Edward gets ready to receive the ball. However, the kicker of the Seahawks kicked the ball high up in the air when the referee blew the whistle. Shit! Edward cursed before he rushed towards the center of the line. Nobody expects it to happen, but Edward jumped high up in the air to catch the ball before anyone else could get near it. Close the defense! The Seahawks team captain shouted. Damn, I got to run on my own. Edward said before he smirked in excitement. He dashed into the opposite team's end zone. A linebacker reached his arm to catch Edward, but he avoided the tackle by spinning his body, not breaking his momentum in the least before he passed the defense. The linebacker was dumbfounded when he saw Edward's figure disappear in front of him. Oh my God! What's up with that kid's speed? Jay muttered in disbelief and excitement. He's like a pro. No high school kids can compete with that. Edward rushed to the end zone, and he got a touchdown 20 seconds into the second half. The crowd cheered thunderously while the college team fell in disbelief. A cross step, added with a spin? Cam muttered with a flushed face. His hands shivered in excitement, and then he yelled with a high-pitched voice, joining in the crowd's cheers, Edward! Edward panted as he stood in the end zone, his face flushed with excitement. In the memory I have, Hiruma learned Senna's running style, but he didn't use it much because it's not compatible with his play style. However, my golden body proportions allowed me to use it without much stress on my body. Damn, it felt nice. Edward thought secretly. The extra point kick was successful, taken by Edward himself. The Seahawks became the offensive team now. However, Edward managed to intercept the quarterback's pass and ran into the 80 yards mark before he got tackled. Run 3 steps to the left, then turn 45 degrees. Run 3 steps to the left, then turn 45 degrees. Jacob chanted inside his mind as the game resumed. Ready. Set. Hut. Edward shouted. Jacob didn't even look at the ball and run the way Edward told him to. He then opened up his hands to receive the ball, just behind the line of scrimmage. Edward smirked again and laughed devilishly, run like hell. He threw a long, fast, straight pass towards Jacob. The precision of the ball control allowed the ball to fly unobstructed and went directly into Jacob's hands. Jacob smiled in disbelief, but before his mind could react, his body reacted first as it listened to Edward's order to run. Jacob dashed into the end zone as fast as he could, but he got tackled just before entering the final line. Edward's heart palpitates as he wiped the sweat dripping down his chin. The referee went to check on Jacob. Then, he saw that Jacob managed to reach his hand through the end zone line and placed the ball inside the zone. Touchdown! The referee shouted with a smile on his face. Jacob was in disbelief as he heard it, and his teammates all rushed towards him. Jacob! 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 They threw him up in the air as if they were celebrating the winning point in the game. The Seahawks captain pointed towards the celebrating kids while turning to his teammates. "I'm confused. Did we lose already? The game is still ongoing, right?" His teammate shrugged in confusion. Then, the game resumed after Edward kicked in the ball to earn an extra point. The Dolphins managed to make a comeback, surpassing the Seahawks point by 1 point. 34-35. The ball was back to the Seahawks. To prevent the pass from getting intercepted, the Seahawks made short passes to the running back. However, he was intercepted in his route twice. One by Edward, and one by Tyler. Edward breathed heavily as he sat down on the grass. There was only 20 seconds left in the third quarter, and the Seahawks' offense was unrelenting. The game became stagnant with neither team advancing or retreating until the clock ran out. "Where's Ted? He's missing out on what could potentially be the greatest game of Edward's life." Phil muttered helplessly, but with a hint of irritation. "He's not picking up his phone." Claire replied. "I tried the office, but he is also not there." Phil and Claire's commentary. "My dad was always supportive. Never missed a tumbling meet or a breakdance brawl. I'd set up the sound system for the school assembly. He'd be the loudest voice in the crowd. Hey everybody! Check out my son's equipment," Phil said before he chuckled to himself. Claire smiled softly as she looked at Phil before she turned into the camera and said, "He should be here. It is his responsibility as a father. Edward might seem like he didn't care, but I know deep down, Edward is pretty sensitive," Claire said, taking her delusions as the reality. Commentary ends. "Hello, pretty girl." Alex heard a familiar Nigerian accent voice coming from behind her. She turned around and saw Sam Abasanya, an acquaintance she met during the decathlon in Dryden Academy before this. "Sam!" Alex greeted enthusiastically. Phineas, who was eating a hot dog nearby, was startled and he quickly stood from his seat. Putting his hot dog down, he turned to Sam and introduced himself. "Hi. I'm Phineas. I'm Alex's boyfriend." He stressed out the boyfriend part. Sam just smiled and said, "Really? You with the pretty girl? Are you rich?" Enid couldn't hold her laugh. "Sam! Over here!" She waved at Sam to invite him to sit with them. "Enid! Did you invite him here?" Alex asked. "Yeah. He came here to visit his, what is it, Sam?" Enid asked, already forgetting about the thing she had asked him before. Sam smiled and said, "I didn't come here to visit. I went to the Dryden dorm room to get my stuff. I am joining Nigeria's under-18 football team when I go home." "Oh. Good for you, Sam," Alex said with a kind smile. "Who is he?" Jenna whispered to Enid. After an initial introduction, Jenna's eyes lit up and she said, "Wait. You played soccer?" "We call it football in Nigeria," Sam said with a tired tone but a smile on his face. Jenna ignored that remark and asked, "Then, do you know how to kick that ball?" She pointed to the field, and Sam understood what she was saying from her gestures. Sam nodded and said, "I did play American football before." "Then, you can kick, right? Edward's team needs a kicker. You should go there and ask them if you can play." Alex rolled her eyes at Jenna's naive remark and said, "First of all, he's not a student here. Secondly, substituting an unknown player in the middle of the match? That'll cause more harm than it'll do good." Jenna pursed her lip and pouted while crossing her arms. I was just suggesting. It is a suggestion. Hey! The last quarter is starting. Wait a second, who the hell is this guy? Abraham, who just walked towards them with a foam finger on his hand and popcorn on the other, felt threatened when he saw Sam. Is he one of the guys who'd fallen for Alex? If that's the case, then I need to tell you that I'm second in line. Abraham said jokingly while hiding his true intention. Alex rolled her eyes, but before she could admonish Abraham, she heard Sam's answer. Yes. He's just a friend. Wait. What? Alex was baffled and blushed immediately. A few seats over, Haley and Tara watched the preteens' drama with a look of disdain on their faces. Not that they didn't enjoy the scene, but they were being so loud that it distracted them from watching the game. So, your sister has 3 guys going after her. And, you can't even get one guy even if you're basically throwing yourself at him. Tara teased. Haley rolled her eyes and said, at the very least he replies when I text him. Unlike your so-called boyfriend who ghosted you after you do it with him. Tara narrowed her eyes to Haley and said, you wanna fight, slut? You're talking to a mirror? Haley casually retorted back. Show it's starting. Haley shushed Tara before she could react and put her entire focus on Edward. It's the last quarter, I wonder what Ed is thinking. Haley wondered to herself. Edward POV. My underwear is riding up. It's very uncomfortable. I want to fix it, but my cup is in the way. We were now 2 minutes into the game. The Seahawks kept their offensive role and they had gained 30 yards. Captain Terry Hyde signaled his teammates. It's going to be a kick. I whispered to Tyler and Jacob. We need to stop him before that. Jacob and Tyler nodded. As soon as the ball was snapped back, the defensive line collided with each other. A holder placed the ball on its position on the ground. The kicker rushed to the ball from behind the line of scrimmage to kick it forward. Damn it! I cursed as I saw that Jacob and Tyler couldn't pass the defensive line. The disparity of physicality was shown this late in the game. The Collagers had more training as they were older and they had substituted their players throughout the game, therefore most of them were still in peak condition, while most of my team players were at the brink of collapse from continuous high-pressure gameplay. The ball went into the goalpost perfectly. The Seahawks regained the lead at 37-35. The kickoff went pretty badly, and the newbie who caught the ball in my team lost the ball in a fumble, so we lost our offensive opportunity. The Seahawks scored another touchdown at that moment, and also scored in one extra point kick. I panted heavily as I held my knee for support before standing up straight and stared right into the scoreboard. We are losing by 9 points, and there's only 4 minutes left. I noticed something weird going on with my peripheral vision. Tyler's knees were shaking, and he kneed limply onto the ground. Cam saw that and shouted, "Time out." I walked to Tyler and helped him get back on his feet and be his support while I assisted him to walk out of the field. I'm sorry. I can't go on, Tyler said in a weak voice. You don't have to feel bad. We did something great today. How many high school football teams can compete evenly with professional college players? We're the first one, and we are just getting started, I said with an encouraging tone. Tyler chuckled and winced in pain. Ow, my ribs hurt. Go and get checked out. We got this, I said to him before passing him to Cam. Oh my God, Tyler, are you okay? Cam shrieked like a little girl while his hands were dramatically thrown in the air. Cam. Hands. I reminded him. Oh. Right. He realized it and put it down quickly before helping Tyler sit down on the bench. I walked to the center of the field and said, "Huddle up." The team members walked slowly to where I was. As they stood in a circle facing me, I smiled and said in a calming tone, I know, this is a tough one. We're an ace down, there's 3 minutes on the clock. You know what my brain told me to do? Just lie down on a soft mattress, maybe bask in the sun, and just relax. That doesn't sound so bad, Tyrone said while clutching his hurting left hand. The team chuckled lightly, and I did so too. Yeah. You're right. That doesn't sound so bad. In fact, it doesn't sound so bad at all. I agreed with them as I took off my helmet. So, why don't we just quit now? The team stopped chuckling and their faces turned solemn. Kyle, the emo kid playing tight end, spoke up. Ed. We can't do that. Why not? I asked them casually. It won't change anything? Right? So why do we continue playing? None of them could answer that question. I walked right to Tyrone and grabbed his shirt. Tell me. Why do we keep playing? To win. Tyrone shouted. That's right. We play to win. I shouted as I turned around and made eye contact with all of the team members. Let me tell you why you won't stop now. Because when your brain told you to give up, what did your heart tell you? They told you to win. And right now is the time to listen to your heart. If you wanted to quit, why didn't you do it earlier? Why not in the first quarter when they were leading ahead by 20 points, and we got 0? The reason you didn't walk out of the field is because of a belief. A belief that will matter. A belief that miracles can happen. That's why we persevere. And believe me when I tell you this, it is much better for us to give everything we have and lose, rather than stop believing. My words got through to them. The fire in their eyes returned, and their decadent look changed as if they were breathed in a second life. I stopped motivating them and joked, I don't know about you guys, but I know for sure that I would have to lie down for an entire day after this. And that's unfortunate, because I'm pretty sure that I have earned a makeout session. Too bad I won't be able to move to enjoy it. Kyle smiled and said, well, usually when I can't move, my girlfriend will help me rub one out, so I will make sure to spend the rest of my energy here so that I can get that. I snapped my finger at him and said, yeah, Kyle. That's the spirit we're looking for. The group burst into laughter. Put your hands together. I asked. All of us put our palms on top of one another. Even Tyler limped towards the circle to put his hands in. In the count of 3, we're going to be unstoppable. Okay? 1, 2, 3. We're unstoppable. Chapter 197, Sports Baptism by Fire, for F. General POV. Seahawks team captain, Terry, faced off with the team's coach and snapped at him, we should be aggressive. Why in the hell should we let them catch up with us? You always do this. That's why we kept losing in every match. The coach tried to calm Tyler down with a gesture, I get that you're frustrated, but imagine the sponsorship we will have after this. This whole match is being recorded. Shut up. Terry yelled at the coach. If we lose to a high school team, then our whole football career will be over. It doesn't matter if we have sponsorship. We will become a joke to everyone. He dug his finger into the coach's chest to stress his point. The coach was irritated and slapped his hand away, you either do what I say, or you're off the team. Terry gritted his teeth in frustration, at the same time clenching his fist. His argument with the coach was seen by Edward, who was getting ready to start the game. Edward had a thoughtful look on his face, and then the referee called both teams to the field. Ready. Set. Hut. Edward shouted. The center snapped the ball back, and Edward caught it. Jacob, Tyrone and Kyle ran in front of Edward as the linebackers held the defense. It's a sweep. Jay shouted in excitement. The defenders protected the quarterback as he ran his route. However, the opposing team reacted quickly. Tyrone and Kyle each held back one tackler, leaving only Jacob with Edward running past the line of scrimmage. In front of them were Terry and one other blocker. Jacob's eyes shook, and then his gaze turned into that of determination. Previously, when Edward told them to persevere for miracles to happen, Jacob's internal belief was greatly shaken. Have I really given my best here on the field? He self-reflected. He looked down on his hand, and he clenched them tight. If I want to continue playing the game with Ed, then I need to become what he needs me to be. Back to the attack, Terry was startled when number 20, which was labeled as the timid but strong wide receiver, took the initiative to take the fight to Terry instead of facing off the blocker intended to stop him. Terry was aiming to stop Edward's attack, but was stopped a foot away before he could touch Edward's clothes. Jacob, Terry, and the other blockers all fall together because of Jacob's attack. Edward dashed into the end zone unobstructed and scored a touchdown. The crowd cheered thunderously, with air horns and whistles filling the air. Time out. Cam shouted quickly as he rushed towards Jacob. Edward saw that Jacob wasn't getting up, so he rushed back to the 80-yard line. Cam kneeled beside Jacob and slapped his face. Hey. You're all right? Jacob's eyes were still dazed and he kept staring at the sky. Edward finally got towards him and then smiled. Jacob, you did really well. Jacob's eyes finally regained his clarity and he turned to look at Edward. He sat up quickly and said, I tackled someone. Yeah. You did. How's that feel? Edward asked teasingly. It felt awful. Jacob replied. But, I know that I need to do it. He added. Yeah, the first time is always the hardest. Thanks to you, I got off pretty easily. Edward said as he grabbed Jacob's hand and pulled him to stand up. Look, Elsa's going crazy over there. Jacob turned towards the crowd and saw Elsa blowing kisses at him while screaming his name. His cheeks blushed a little, and he waved back shyly. But, as he was smiling at Elsa, suddenly, one of his front teeth was chipped. It cracked at a 45-degree angle, and parts of the tooth fell down on the grass. Edward widened his eyes, and Cam shrieked in surprise. Huh? What's wrong? Jacob asked in confusion. During the collision before, his mouth was hit with Terry's elbow on accident. Edward held Jacob's shoulder and said with a sympathetic tone, "Thank you for your sacrifice." Jacob was confused, and then he finally realized it when Cam pointed it out for him. My teeth. Timeout, over. Both teams to the 2 yards line. The referee instructed. Terry punched the grass as he stood back up from the tackle and he looked at his coach with a burning hatred on his face. Suddenly, Edward talked to him, "That guy's an insufferable dumbass." Terry was a bit startled but he answered anyway, "Yeah. Hey, you remember when you fought off the Lancers, and you made a comeback after the third quarter? I became your fan after that." Terry looked a bit dejected and said, "Yeah. That was the semi-final of the inter-college match. Our captain he decided to take a gamble, and stop listening to the coach. Although we won the match, he was fired from the team." Edward grinned and teased, "So, I guess we will win this one, right? After all, you can only listen to him, and not make any decisions for yourself." Terry gritted his teeth in humiliation, and Edward turned his back. "Do what you want already. This kind of match, it's embarrassing for both of us." The Seahawks' newbie captain fell into contemplation. As Edward went back to regroup with his team, Tyrone asked him with disbelief, "Now why in the hell did you taunt that guy? Our chances are slim enough already." Edward just smirked and didn't say anything. Tyrone shook his head, and then said, "All right. I'm sure whatever it is, it's sinister, so I'll just pretend not to see anything." Edward chuckled and said, "See what?" "Exactly." Tyrone played along with a laugh. Their laughter brought immense pressure to the Seahawks' defensive line. The game resumed, and when the center snapped the ball, Edward made a short pass to Tyrone, who took a few steps backward from the line, dashed left to make the breakthrough from the side. Kyle and Edward protected him, and he managed to score the extra point as he entered the end zone. The score is now 44-43 with only 2 minutes left on the clock. The Dolphins were still behind. The Seahawks coach celebrated as the offense fell to them again. He clapped his hand and ordered, "Good. Just drag the time. Keep the ball. Don't do anything else." Terry had a solemn look on his face. Then, he asked the team to huddle up. "Listen." The match continued. However, this time, the Seahawks ignored the coach's words and they made an intense offense. They also did a sweep and managed to score a touchdown in the final minute. For the extra point, they did a kick, which they scored. The score is now 51-43, and the audience's mood has become depressed. "What the hell are you guys doing?" the Seahawks team coach shouted at his team. However, Terry's challenging eyes were focused on Edward. "They'll lose, huh?" Luke's voice was filled with pity. Jay, Claire, and Mitch agreed with him. Alex said, "Yeah. But they..." Haley and Phil said at the same time, "No. It's not over yet." Gloria said with an annoyed tone while glaring at Jay, "They will win." Jay was taken aback and said, "Well, if you think about it realistically, miracles don't count on logic." Phil said, "Ed is a dreamer. They will turn this around." Claire tried to calm Phil down. "But honey, should just watch," Gloria said before she and Phil high-fived each other under the dumbfounded gazes of the Pritchetts. Back to the game. Edward chuckled in self-depreciation when he saw the determined expression on the opposing team's face. Suddenly, he tapped his thigh and he hummed. Tyler returned to the team after getting some rest. "What's wrong with him?" he asked Jacob while pointing at Edward. Jacob shrugged and said, "I don't know. Hyping himself up, I guess. Swinging like Ali, knocking out bodies, standing on top like a champion." Edward mumbled. Then, he stopped and looked at Tyler. "Listen," he whispered something to his team. The whistle was blown, and the match resumed. Edward's team has the offense. "Ready. Set. Hut." Edward shouted. However, Edward didn't run instantly as the defense couldn't open up a gap for him. "Listen. All you need to do is stop Newgate from running," was what Terry said to his team before this. Terry lunged at him as he was sure that Edward would keep the ball during the last play. Edward's face turned ashen, making Terry more confident in his guess. "Shit," Edward cursed as Terry was already in front of him. However, Terry's eyes widened and his heart skipped a beat when he saw Edward's condescending smirk. "Gotcha," Edward muttered to himself. Tyler had already passed the defensive line and was ready to receive the ball 30 yards away. Edward twisted his upper body, planted his foot into the ground, and then threw the ball through the tiny gap in the defensive line, just between Jacob and the center player. Edward was tackled without any chance to defend himself and fall into the ground the second the ball left his hand. The ball flew while spiraling in a high speed, in a straight line. The ball flew into Tyler's arm, and it was still rotating even when Tyler had captured it. Then, Tyler rushed into the end zone with Tyrone protecting him. He made a left, and then, another left, and he kept going left in his route. Phil's play in the series. Touchdown. The referee blew the whistle. As the audience cheered, Cam shouted instantly, "Timeout." The last timeout was called to stop the clock. The countdown froze with 6 seconds remaining. The audience held their breath as both teams faced off in the 2 yards line again. "Listen. They will target only me. That's why I pulled the aggro. So you guys can move easier," was what Edward said to his team before the play began. Both of the team moved to the 2 yards line for the extra point match. Terry thought nervously, will he come from the left? Or from the right? Who will he give the ball to? Edward's trying to push the game into overtime. Claire said in a nervous tone. Can they even handle it? Jay muttered with a slight sarcasm. His team is already on their last leg. The match began during the father-daughter conversation. Set. Hut. Edward shouted and the ball was snapped towards him. Terry went to the left while the other blockers went to the right. However, no one expected that Edward would step on Jacob's shoulder pad and dove right through the defense line from the air. The other team's defense tried to grab him, but they were occupied with the opponent's linebackers. Edward fell inside the end zone, and the whole crowd cheered. The clock strikes 0, and the score is tied up at 51-51, and the game falls into overtime. Terry panted heavily as he flopped on the grass, his eyes filled with disbelief. Did I fall into his mind games? That kid's terrifying," he muttered before he started to laugh. After a short break, Edward said to Terry, "Let's do sudden death." "Sure," Terry replied easily. "I mean, we can play more, but your team can't," he teased. One of his team members grabbed Terry and whispered to him, "Why are you smiling? We can lose the match. I might get kicked out of the team after this, so I might as well enjoy my last game," Terry said in a casual manner before turning to the rest of his team. "One last play. Are you guys ready?" "We're ready," the team shouted back at him. Edward asked his team, "One last play. Are you ready, kids?" "Aye, aye, Captain," the team replied to him. Tyler froze in his spot. "HUI, I'm the captain, you bastards. Why are all of them laughing?" Haley asked as she was confused about what was happening inside the field. As the only former football player there, Jay sighed and replied, "To soothe their nerves, if they were too high-strung, they won't be able to focus on the last chance." The referee called both of the team captains for the coin toss. The sudden death game rules are simple, and can be divided into 5 parts. Coin toss. A coin toss determines which team gets the first possession or which end zone they will attack. The visiting team captain usually calls the coin toss. Possession. The team that wins the coin toss gets the first possession in overtime. They have an opportunity to possess the ball and attempt to score. If they score a touchdown on their possession, the game ends, and they are declared the winner. If they kick a field goal, the opposing team gets a chance to possess the ball and respond. Possession switch. If the team that starts with the first possession in overtime does not score, or only scores a field goal, the opposing team gets the ball. They then have an opportunity to possess the ball and attempt to score. If they score a touchdown, they win the game. If they only score a field goal, the game continues, and the possession switches back to the other team. Alternating possessions. If neither team scores on their first possession in sudden death, the format switches to alternating possessions. Each team takes turns starting at the opponent's 25-yard line and tries to score a touchdown or field goal. The order of possessions continues to alternate until there is a winner. Sudden death. The game ends as soon as one team scores and the other team fails to match or surpass their score. For example, if Team A scores a touchdown, and Team B subsequently fails to score or only scores a field goal, Team A wins the game. The referee tossed the coin into the air. Terry called it heads. The coin then falls back down into the referee's hand. "It's tails." Tyler cheered. "All right." Terry chuckled and muttered in self-depreciation, "I can't even call the last coin toss right." The game started at the opponent's 25 yards line. Edward readied himself and then muttered, "This is it, guys." "Ready." The audience's nerves tightened. Everyone held their breath. "Set." Phil made sure to record everything on his camera. Gloria prayed for Edward. Haley saw that and also did a small prayer of her own. "Hut!" Edward shouted and received the ball. Just like in the previous match, he was targeted by the opponent's team. This time, Edward dashed towards the end zone. He managed to pass the line of scrimmage, and 2 yards before the end zone, he was tackled by the opponent's linebacker. "Oh!" the crowd gasped. However, everyone was in shock when they saw Edward's hand. "It's empty," Phil muttered with disbelief. Haley shouted in excitement, "It's empty. That means dash." Tyler rushed into the end zone, and the team managed to score a touchdown to win the game. The crowd exploded into cheer till the bleachers shook from their excitement. After the referee announced the winner, the college team went back to their bench while the Dolphins celebrated. They were throwing Jacob and Edward into the air before everyone received kisses from the cheerleaders. Coach Terry called out, but was interrupted by the coach's hand gestures. "You know what will happen now, right?" the coach asked while crossing his arms together. "I know. I will quit the team." "No. You can't do that." "Or, I will quit the team too." One of the linebackers spoke up. Terry was startled and he turned to his friend, James. "No dash. I will quit too." The running back spoke up and stood beside Tyler. I will follow the captain. Yeah. If he quits, then I will stop playing. The entire team spoke up on behalf of the captain. The coach kept his silence as he faced the group of college students. He narrowed his eyes at them, making them feel pressured. Someone needs to take responsibility for this. We could have won this game if you'd just listen, the coach said in a cold tone. The group lowered their heads, but then the coach's next words made them look up again. For losing to a high school team, everyone here will take responsibility. Training will be doubled when we get back. Do you have any objections to this? The team smiled and replied, "No, coach." Edward POV. I smiled as I watched the Spartacus scene going on in the other team. During my research on the opponent team before, I found something surprising. The other team's captain, who everyone said was forced to quit the team by their current coach because he didn't listen to him, was actually involved in drug abuse. The coach found out about it, and that was why he was out of the team. The coach took the blame for everything as he didn't want to report the kid as he believed that he could change in the future. The scandal implicated the funds for the team, that's why he agreed to the match today. As long as the team got some exposure, he could attract new sponsors for the team. What else could be better for exposure than facing off against a team with an extremely popular celebrity in it? They would win, even if they lose the match today. Let's go eat. I shouted to the team members while everyone was celebrating. Taylor clapped her hands while the cheerleaders cheered for the team. We went to clean ourselves up before going to the hotel's restaurant that I had booked to celebrate the victory. Before I left the school, I was suddenly pulled into a dark corner while I was walking down the hallway. "Aunt Camila? You were here?" I asked in shock when I saw she was hiding her hair with a scarf and wearing huge sunglasses. "Yes. I was here the whole time. But I can't let anyone see me, so I was under the bleacher." I rolled my eyes at her and said angrily, "If you don't tell me what exactly you did that you need to hide from the cops, don't blame me when I figured that out on my own." She chuckled and teased, "If you can really do that, then I will get in the hot tub with you naked." "That's a bet." "All right. Join me for my team dinner?" I asked her simply. "Sure." "Wait, what about your dad? Where is he?" she asked with concern. I shrugged and said, "Banging Frankie, hopefully." "Nah. He's too cowardly to make a move." My aunt replied sarcastically, "I need to get a ride, so let your girl ride with her friend," she said, referring to Taylor and Selena. I nodded in agreement and said, "I'm going to meet Haley and Phil first. Here, you can pull the car up front." She grabbed the keys from me and left. I met with the entire Haley's family when I went to meet her. Gloria kissed my cheek multiple times to applaud me for my winning. "Manny, good luck with your match." "I want to go see it, but I have to go to the team dinner," I said while rubbing Manny's head. Manny suddenly said, "It's okay, Ed. I won't go to the finals." Gloria and Jay were shocked. Jay exclaimed, "What?" Manny added, "Defeating a woman will be a mark on my honor." I want it to be a fair game, like what Edward faced. Both of the parents were speechless. Before Jay could say anything, I held Manny's shoulder and said, "And why do you think that it's not fair? Do you think that you are sure to win the game? That's mighty condescending of you." Manny was stunned. "What? No dash. Really? Because it seems like that. I just don't want to fight a girl. It's not being a gentleman," he confessed. "It doesn't matter in a competition. Not giving your opponent your 100% is an insult. Remember this, Manny, when you work hard to win, your opponent is doing the same thing too. Can you imagine what you're going to feel if you finally got to the final match, and you're so close to finally proving to yourself that your efforts are worth it, but your opponent doesn't even take you seriously and quit, never even giving you a chance?" Manny fell into contemplation before he answered, "I'd be frustrated." I nodded to him and said, "That's why you have the obligation to do your best until the very end. That's what being a gentleman is all about." No matter if your opponent is a girl or not. Okay. I got it. I will not quit my match. Manny replied after thinking for a while. Gloria and Jay cheered and said urgently, let's go. We need to get to the venue right now. All right. Manny replied. Dad. I will wait for Cam. Go on without me. Mitchell replied. While the family was getting ready, Haley pulled me to the side and asked, are you okay? You got tackled pretty hard. Yeah. It's bruising. I said as I raised my shirt slightly, revealing a patchwork of bruises scattered across my stomach. Haley gasped in shock and said, you need to get that checked out. I shook my head dismissively and said, it's fine. It doesn't hurt much. Jacob had to go to the dentist though. She wasn't amused by my joke. With a concerned expression, she said, wait. You, Jacob, and who else? Basically everyone in the team. We were in a David and Goliath kinda match. College boys are very strong. I said. If you're worried, why don't you come with me to dinner to keep an eye on me? She rolled her eyes, but then her gaze went to her family. Well, I promised my mom I will support Manny. Wait, Haley suddenly realized something. Mom. Alex is ditching again. Claire realized it too and said, ah. Right. Haley, go and fetch your sister. I chuckled and said, too bad. Everyone is going to the dinner party, except her. Chapter 198, Football Reaction. General POV. ESPN special footage and NFL player commentary. What the dash? In New York, Pepper was taken aback when he received the permission request for a commentary program on ESPN to discuss Edwards' football match today. The request came in the form of a call, where it was first relayed to Ronaldo before it came to him. Not knowing the impact of the request, Pepper asked Harvey for her advice. Max, who was standing beside Pepper in a leather jacket, muttered in confusion, why don't you just ask that wunderkind what to do? No Westside, he just finished his match. I don't want to bother him when he's supposed to be resting. Pepper replied. Max's lips curled to show a pleased smile, and she said, nice. I finally got it right. She was referring to her leather jacket, mimicking the outfit in the movie, West Side Story. Pepper told her to wear intimidating clothes, and that's what both of them decided on. Pepper, mainly because he has never mingled with the poor society, so he didn't know what true gang members look like, and Max, who knew all about it, but decided that all the posh old men they were going to meet had the same impression of a gang like Pepper, so she made an executive decision. I am also impressed you know what wunderkind means. Pepper looked at Max with a satisfied expression. What? Max was confused. Doesn't it mean Wonder Kid? It's not that hard to figure out. Pepper opened his mouth to object, but he received another call. Still, he took the time to comment, you might be the first to say that about the German language. IT was German? Max was startled. The football match was not officially filmed, but footage of it was captured using the same professional-grade cameras that were used for filming the music video. Additionally, the college team had also recorded the entire match for research purposes. The ESPN show managed to get a copy from the college team, but it was too low quality for them to show it on TV. Not only them, but a lot of news media and celebrity talk shows wanted to get the footage of the game, especially when it's currently trending on Twitter and Instagram. I guess we can give it to them. It won't do much harm. Pepper said after he thought about it for a while. Pepper didn't know yet how much of an impact the sport had on this country as he was never interested in them. In Texas State, an ordinary Texan man was watching ESPN when the commentary about Edwards' game was shown on TV. He has a beer gut and was sitting on the single couch while drinking beer on a Saturday afternoon. The host invited Samuel Onyedikachieko, a professional NFL player that had retired and became a sport analyst on ESPN, to talk about Edwards' game today. Ha! The Texan man who was watching TV was slightly interested when he saw the commentator, mainly because that guy used to play in the Texan club. Janine. The Texan man called his daughter, your boyfriend's on TV. What? A young, 12-year-old girl with blonde hair rushed to the TV. Hey, it's Edward's match. That Newgate? I thought he's a sissy who sang about his feelings. Wait, what the hell? Hot damn. The Texan dad shouted in excitement after he saw Edward throwing the ball in a straight line 30 yards away. Samuel in the show commented, "What I think is the most scary, John, is how he controls the flow of the game. Let's take a closer look at when he first entered the field. I got to applaud the kid's mind here." The footage showed the incredibility of Edward's silent no-look pass when he received the ball and pretended he was still holding the ball a second later. He used to fake out when everyone was focusing on him and expecting him to make the attack. His behavior is highly professional. He didn't go for personal glory, but instead he used every card he has. And what about the other team, Sam? John, the host asked. LA Seahawks made a few solid plays, and they didn't take any risks. Although it was a good call for them in the beginning, it also became their downfall in the second half of the game. Sam said before he focused on Terry, the Seahawks team captain. He talked about how Terry had the potential to become a pro player, as long as he could get rid of his indecisiveness. Many pro teams kept an eye on several of the college team players because of this particular match. Honestly, if the rules for getting drafted as a professional player isn't having to wait 3 years after high school, I would have done whatever it takes to get Newgate for my team. Sam joked. Tyler Banks, Tyrone McDonald's. And that juggernaut junior, Jacob Green. They are NFL seeds, and I surely hope that I can see them in the Super Bowl in the future. Samuel said without the slightest exaggeration. The Texan dad was influenced by the talk show, and he turned to his daughter. "You said you want to buy Edward's album, right?" Janine, the 12-year-old kid, gleamed in excitement. "Yes. Definitely. I really want it. Ah, we should get the special album." The dad scowled a bit. "Special? How much more money is the special one going to cost?" "Just $5 more. But it has 3 country songs in it," Janine said. The dad was slightly taken aback, before his mouth broke into a smile. "Really?" he asked in disbelief and a bit of surprise. "Why didn't you say so? Let's go. I want to hear what he has to sing in country music." Not only in this household, but similar things were happening all across the country. The album sales tripled for that day. It also brought Edward a lot of new fans as people who judged him too soon changed their mind about him. Other than ESPN, there were also a lot of talk shows discussing Edward's match. The Daily Rip, hosted by Brie Eventy and Jack Bremer, Kate Blanchett and Tyler Perry from Don't Look Up, played the footage of the match on the screen. "You know, I'm amazed, Jack. When I heard about a singer playing a sports game, I initially thought it was a publicity stunt match, and they won't do it seriously," Brie said with a pretty smile on her face. "But he got tackled 5 times. Each one is worse than the last," Brie added as the footage of Edward getting tackled was played. Jack nodded and said, "I thought the same way. But again, I think most of us did. No one expected him to be this good at it. He can be a pro even if he's not singing." "I am changing my mind, Brie. I think he's a cool guy." Brie laughed and said, "I told you, Jack. He's handsome, athletic, has great money, he's every girl's dream guy." Jack chuckled and said, "Too bad for the girls, he's already been locked down." In an apartment in Pasadena, Penny was watching the ESPN show in Leonard and Sheldon's place. Leonard looked at the TV blankly and said, "I don't even know we have ESPN." Sheldon, who was sitting at his spot, said, "We didn't choose it. It was part of the package we have." Penny ignored them and watched the show with vigor. "Ugh. I can't believe that I messed up the date. I thought his match was tomorrow. They are usually on Sunday." "You know what? You should have reminded me." Sheldon watched a few of the gameplay footage and nodded in acknowledgement. Penny caught that and asked, "Why are you nodding to yourself like a wise old sage?" Sheldon sighed and then replied, "First of all, thank you. Secondly, as a Texan, I was forced to be in the world of football from a young age. I once assisted my father in devising strategies for the high school team he coached before I was finally allowed to do my homework.
Penny asked, and what does it have to do with the nodding?
Sheldon was a bit hesitant. Well, at first, I was inclined to scrutinize Edward's team play calling, but much to my surprise, his decisions were remarkably efficient.
It's no coincidence that they emerged victorious.
Ah.
It's the first time you say something nice about him,
Penny said while smiling at Sheldon.
What about you, Leonard?
She turned to ask Leonard, who was still struggling as he watched the TV.
Leonard? He doesn't even know the rules of the game. Sheldon chortled in derision.
Leonard was embarrassed and said, at the very least I was invited to the game.
Penny gasped and said, but you didn't go? How could you do that to him?
Leonard was taken aback and stammered nervously, he told me I don't, but, new game.
You should have gone. Penny scolded.
Edward POV. Taylor and I walked side by side with our arms interlinked together.
Her attire exuded an air of elegance and allure.
She donned a captivating dark blue dress, accentuated by a delicate black ribbon gracefully adorning the side of her shoulder. A ponytail held her hair in place, revealing the graceful curve of her nape. Her slender figure added to her overall charm, radiating a delightful cuteness. In her hand, she carried a contrasting beige purse, a sophisticated touch that complemented her ensemble with subtle grace.
My attire incidentally matched her outfit today.
I confidently sported a collared, long-sleeved blue shirt, leaving the top button undone, drawing attention to my chest with a subtle allure. The ensemble was perfectly paired with sleek black shoes and weekday pleated trousers, adding a touch of sophistication to my overall look. Taking pride in the finer details, I meticulously folded my sleeves, accentuating my well-defined forearms. As a final touch, I adorned my attire with a pair of stylish sunglasses, perched effortlessly on the top button, lending an air of effortless cool to the ensemble.
Selena, who was wearing a simple blouse and pants, scoffed at our image.
Seriously, you guys planned a couple look? I snickered while Taylor giggled.
I turned to Selena and asked, hey, this is a team dinner. Why are you even here?
Why is she here?
Selena asked with an angry tone, pointing at Taylor. She's my date. So, she can enter.
I muttered with a slight chuckle.
Then, I asked her with a serious tone, what did the doctor say? Selena shrugged and shook her head, the result isn't out yet.
Oh, by the way, I saw your dad at the hospital.
Huh? What's he doing there? I muttered in confusion. Then, I took out my phone and said, Robin, can you find out my dad's location? Robin?
X2. Both of the two girls were confused when I spoke to my smartphone.
Selena's lip curled and she asked teasingly, did you hit your head in the game? Are you finally going crazy? Robin's reply interrupted her, sure boss.
Taylor's eyes momentarily flashed with a dangerous glint before it vanished.
She smiled and asked, who's she? Robin?
She's my child, I replied.
Huuuuuuhhhh, they both exclaimed in bewilderment, their suspicious eyes locked on me.
Ignoring their reactions, I suggested, let's take a seat first.
We can talk about it later.
We settled around a circular table draped with a white sheet in the hotel's restaurant.
As we waited for the rest of the team to gather, I opened my laptop. Taylor leaned forward, perplexed, and questioned, you're editing the MV now?
Kyle, the goth tight end, overheard Taylor and approached our table.
Tyler and his girlfriend followed suit.
Turning to Taylor, I confirmed, yeah, it won't take too long.
Wait. Here they come. I've been meaning to do this for a while. As Tyler's Latina girlfriend arrived, I introduced them quickly, saying, Selena, meet Selena.
The others already know each other. Both Latina girls rolled their eyes at my attempt at humor before turning to each other.
Hi, Gomez, the short Selena said. I know. I watched the Wizards show.
Diaz, the captain's girlfriend, replied with a warm smile on her face. The actress/singer/still a shorty Selena felt a bit relieved inwardly as Diaz treated her like a normal person.
Wait. Diaz. Do you happen to have a relative named Rosa Diaz, who works as a detective in New York? I asked, intrigued as I studied her face, noting a resemblance. Taken aback, she responded, I'm not sure. Maybe. I'll ask around.
Taylor hugged my arm and perched her cheek on my shoulder. With a smushed face, she tried to persuade me, maybe you should let other people edit the MV.
Like I said, it won't take too long. Robin, pull up today's recording. Okay, boss. Robin said.
The pop-up bar in my window was opened automatically, gaining the interest of everyone present.
Taylor raised an eyebrow and said, she's here too? My eyes lit up in excitement of presenting my brainchild to the world. Yeah. She's. Can she not be here? Taylor interrupted before I could say anything. Robin. Introduce yourself.
I said with a tired voice as I looked away from Taylor.
Hello. My name is Robin. It stands for Reliable, Obviously Badass Intelligent Network. I am an artificial intelligence. What? Taylor was in disbelief. An AI? As if. This isn't a superhero movie. She chortled.
Kyle and Tyler both turned towards me. Wait.
An artificial intelligence, like Jarvis? Kyle asked with a shaky voice filled with excitement.
Tyler stood up and looked seriously at my face as he asked, Ed.
Are you, Iron Man?
I scowled and said, no. Then, I thought about it and said, well.
Selena and Selena couldn't understand the boy's excitement. Taylor still thought that I was pretending. Robin then notified, the video has been arranged by matching the sound frequency and initial placement. All right, play it. I ordered.
The first draft for the music video was played, and Taylor was stunned.
She kept muttering, no. It's not real. Selena and Selena watched the MV, and they said, it's lacking. Kyle and Tyler also nodded in agreement with the girls.
I turned towards them and said, it's not finished.
Robin, insert footage 23 and remove 21.
At the beginning of the video, put video 77 and the title. In video 77, the frame captured a full shot of Taylor and me, locked in an intense gaze, as if time had stood still while the other students continued to pass by. Taylor stood on the left side, tightly embracing a stack of books, her big glasses accentuating her features. Her curly blonde hair cascaded around her, adding a touch of whimsy. While her appearance may be considered dull, there was an undeniable cuteness that emanated from her. On the right side, I stood as a handsome counterpart, donning a simple shirt and jeans, emanating a more striking and attractive presence. As the camera panned upward, the title You Belong With Me appeared on the screen, displayed in a whimsical font reminiscent of a fairy tale. Following that, the director's name, directed by Edward Newgate, and the storyline credit, storyline by Taylor S., were prominently showcased. Animate the title font. Change the contrast in this video. A mistake on video 32, the sound synchronization is out of mark. While I was working, the others there looked at me in awe. After I showed them the finished product, an intense debate occurred between the boys and the girls. The stolen glances in the cafeteria are essential. The cheerleader is ignoring the hero, but when he is talking with the heroine, they have a great conversation. The hero's doubts add depth to the bigger picture and align with the intended message of the music video. Argued one of the boys. It's not. It's better not to compare the two too much. Even if the cheerleader is a puta. We can include the scenes without showing the part where they were looking at each other. That'll seem like it's in bad taste. Diaz cursed. And the guy who's insisting on inserting the romantic scene, that was surprisingly Kyle, the goth boy with a piercing on his lip. Tyler lost interest in the girly video fairly quickly, or at least that was what he was showing. He would, however, secretly listen to them at least once a day until the new year. I elbowed Taylor and said, she called you a puta for being yourself. Taylor scoffed and defended, I'm not like that. Selena rolled her eyes, but kept her mouth shut. I'll just cut the scene altogether. I muttered after chuckling. Both Diaz and Kyle turned towards me, slammed the table, and shouted menacingly, "No.
Geez, who's the director now?"
I muttered sarcastically.
Both Taylor and Selena seemed embarrassed by the tension and decided to calm down. "We need a tiebreaker."
"Where's Jacob?"
Kyle inquired.
Diaz, clearly irritated, retorted, "You only want him because he'll just support your opinion. We need another girl." I answered slightly, "Jacob's at the dentist, putting dental crown on his tooth.
He'll come by a bit late."
As the duo kept arguing and even ignoring my answer, Tyler spoke up.
"Or both of them."
"Let's have one boy and one girl," Tyler suggested. Diaz and Kyle were initially taken aback by the idea, but then they nodded in agreement. While they searched for more allies, I managed to finish editing the entire music video.
The process took less than 10 minutes, leaving the audience in disbelief.
Selena looked puzzled and asked, "Hey, if editing a music video is so easy, why does it cost so much?" I chuckled and replied, "Well, it's not exactly affordable or easy for everyone else.
Synchronizing the sound with the lip movements alone can take at least half a day.
I can finish it earlier because, well, I'm just that awesome. That's all." Taylor rolled her eyes and retorted, "But Robin did all the work.
You didn't even touch the keyboard."
"Well, I created Robin, so in a way, I was the one doing all the work," I said with a playful grin.
Robin chimed in, saying, "What boss said is absolutely right." I couldn't resist teasing Taylor and added, "See? Even Robin agrees with me." Chapter 199, Team Dinner. General POV. Edward went to the toilet after finishing the music video and sending it to MTV and his company.
The video would be broadcasted on TV and uploaded on YouTube and entertain videos at the same time. There were 2 hours left before the video was released. Entertain staff members worked overtime today to do some last-minute marketing for the song release. However, instead of feeling sad that they had to work on a Saturday, most of the workers were excited for the new music video.
"Ah, I can finally relax a bit,"
Edward muttered as he stood in front of the sink after getting out of the stall. As Edward washed his hands, suddenly his phone chimed in.
"Mr. Theodore is currently inside Johns Hopkins Hospital." Robin finally gave Edward an update.
The hospital system was backward and wasn't connected to the internet, therefore Robin had a lot of work to do to settle Edward's request. He was undergoing a PET scan, therefore he couldn't be contacted.
Robin added.
Edward froze for a bit after he heard the news. "What's he's there for?" he asked as he felt his stomach churning.
"Medical examination for potential liver cancer," Robin replied.
Her voice sounded like thunder inside of Edward's mind.
"And the result is?" he asked anxiously. Currently, all examinations showed negative cancer results.
However, Mr. Theodore still has to do a few examinations for his liver condition. Based on cross-referencing the data with available medical archives, Mr. Theodore may have cirrhosis. Cirrhosis is a condition where the liver becomes scarred and damaged over time, leading to impaired liver function. It can be caused by factors such as chronic alcohol abuse, viral hepatitis, or certain diseases, and may result in symptoms like fatigue, jaundice, and abdominal pain. Edward didn't ask Robin for details. "Contact the doctor and let him run the Child-Pugh test or MELD, model for end-stage liver disease, test for my dad.
Don't waste any more time with the cancer test." What was he doing when it was already cleared?
Edward scoffed angrily, his disdain for the doctor evident. Internally, he accused the doctor of attempting to inflate medical costs and questioned their competency. His demeanor shifted to one of sharpness and hostility, his voice devoid of any warmth or kindness.
"Pretend to be the hospital director if you have to. Then update me about the result. This will be your first priority." Robin replied, "I understand."
Edward then left the toilet. It was the first time that he didn't say thanks to Robin after he asked her to do something.
Fortunately, Robin didn't have any feelings and wasn't offended by it. "You have a message from Robert Downey Jr., would you like to read it?" Robin asked. "No. I don't want to read any messages." Just leave it alone for now. Edward replied. In the set of Iron Man 2, Scarlett Johansson, who was acting as Black Widow, walked right to Tony, who has blood marks on his face, and asked, "Did you get it?" Tony touched the makeup on his face and said, "I will soon. I need that full game to watch tonight." Jon Favreau joined in and said, "Give me a copy too when you get it." RDJ scoffed and said, "Get it yourself." Scarlett was checking her phone and she said, "Hey. Edward's team is having dinner at Bleep Hotel. That's just 10 minutes away." RDJ's eyes lit up and said, "Nice. We will finish here and go there to bother him. Wait. How did you even know?" RDJ stopped walking and turned towards Scarlett. "You didn't follow him on Insta?" Scarlett asked, confused. "It was in his story." "Oh. That must be it. I didn't open my page yet today." "But you're on that thing 24/7. Are you sure you're not addicted?" RDJ teased. "I might be." Scarlett replied casually while scrolling on her phone without even looking up to meet RDJ's eyes. RDJ was speechless, then he sighed. Back at the hotel, the dinner party started as soon as Jacob arrived from going to the dentist. Everyone cheered at his entrance, and as he flashed his now perfect teeth to the room. Edward smiled as he talked to the members of his teams and joked around as he walked all over the hall. Jacob, who was devouring extra-large ribs, looked at Edward with suspicion. He whispered to Elsa, who was beside him, "Don't you think Edward looks weird? Like, he's smiling, but not really smiling." Elsa was in disbelief and she turned to Jacob with anger, "Sure. You can figure out when he's upset, but not me." Jacob was flabbergasted. "What? No. What I mean is..." "I know what you mean." Elsa pouted as she crossed her arms together. "Maybe he's pouting because the others didn't come. But we can't really blame them. If they join in the dinner party, then they'll just feel awkward." Jacob nodded in agreement, but he still felt that there was something more going on with Edward's demeanor. Tyrone, who was drinking sparkling cider inside a tall wineglass, asked Edward, who was standing near him, "Hey Ed. What song did you sing during the match? The Swinging Like Ollie one." "Oh. That." Edward replied with a trace of confusion in his tone. "How did it go again?" I don't know. You tell me." Tyrone said. "Ha ha ha. Good one," Edward said before he left the table there and went to another one. Tyrone was confused. "What just happened?" he asked his friend. The fat linebacker beside him shrugged and shook his head as he was confused too. Jacob was still watching Edward with some concern as Edward moved towards another table. There, he met with a substitute and a cheerleader girl who came as his date. The substitute, a bit lanky and wearing glasses, didn't possess striking good looks, but he wasn't unattractive either. However, in stark contrast, his date was a stunning blonde girl with straight hair cascading down her shoulders. She wore a provocatively low-cut top that accentuated her figure, and a bracelet adorned her left arm. Her attire exudes luxury, complemented by immaculate makeup. As she glanced at her date, her gaze was cold, as if she believed she was doing him a favor merely by accompanying him. "Jimbo, how are you doing today? How's your leg?" Edward asked the substitute with a genuine smile. In the previous match, Jimbo had suffered a rough tackle and had to be taken off the field after playing for less than 20 seconds. Jimbo's face lit up with a wide grin, and he replied, "I'm doing all right. Funny story, while I was getting my leg treated, Catherine here." Interrupting Jimbo, Catherine, the stunning blonde cheerleader, pushed him playfully to stand in front of Edward while extending her hand for a handshake. "Hi. I'm Catherine," she introduced herself with enthusiasm. "I'm your biggest fan." Edward glanced at her outstretched hand, his eyes narrowing for a moment, but he quickly composed himself, maintaining a smile as he shook her hand. Edward teased sarcastically, "Nice date you got there, Jim." Jim blushed, but Catherine interjected decisively, "No, I'm his date, but only as a favor. We're not together."
Jim was flabbergasted, his jaw dropping.
What?
You said if I bring you here, you'd go out with me.
Shut up,
Catherine derisively retorted to Jim. Then, she turned towards Edward, smoothing her hair and blushing.
We're definitely not together.
Edward maintained a smile on his face and responded, Oh, if you're not together, then you can kindly excuse yourself.
This event is only for people who are related to the team players only. Catherine laughed instead and lightly touched Edward's bicep. You're so funny. Wow, this is really hard. You must work out a lot.
Jacob put down his ribs and observed, Oh, I recognize that look.
That's Edward's 5 seconds from blowing up look. Last time I saw it, he slapped someone until they fell to their knees. Elsa pushed Jacob's arm urgently, Go go go. I'm going.
Jacob rushed towards Edward immediately to pull him away from the girl who couldn't take a hint. Jimbo already realized that Catherine was using him to get close to Edward, however he felt a little glad inside when he saw that Edward was treating that girl like shit.
Jacob finally came over to pull Edward away while Elsa dragged Catherine out of the hall before she was escorted away by security.
Tyler suddenly stood on a chair and clinked his champagne glass with a spoon, managing to sneak the alcohol inside his jacket. He only shared it with the people at his table, mainly Edward, Taylor, Selena, and his girlfriend.
It's time to play some games, Tyler announced. Boo!
Everyone jeered at him simultaneously.
Shut up! I'm the captain. Tyler exploded, causing laughter among his team members.
Bunch of animals, Tyler scoffed, regaining the group's attention.
Games are good to wait, let me check. He pulled out his phone. I remember I screenshot that thing. Ha! Most embarrassing moments. Who's up for a round? Tyrone raised his hand.
Tyler pointed at him, giving way for him to speak.
Tyrone nodded and put his hand back down. Do we really have to?
Team building games is necessary for enhancing relationships and bonds with each other. Tyler said as he read from his phone, at least that's what the website said.
Edward, you want to take the lead on this one? I thought you're the captain.
Edward teased while crossing his arms. Then, he said apologetically, sorry.
Right now. I just want to eat and rest. I'm already tired from the game.
Yeah, just let us recharge.
Tyrone yelled. Spare us from your dumb games. Another player yelled.
Jacob smiled weakly and said, Oh come on guys, it could be great.
Yeah. Listen to Jacob. Tyler said aggrieved while pointing into Jacob's direction.
However, people had no intention of doing the games.
Edward chuckled and then he slowly went back to his seat.
Because of everyone's objection, Tyler was pouting and played with his food in a bad mood. Hey, you were gone for a while, Taylor said, her voice filled with curiosity. She leaned forward, her hand resting on the table as she lazily propped up her head. Taylor's posture exuded a sense of relaxation as she leaned in, her elbows supporting the weight of her head. Her fingers lightly grazed her cheek, her eyes fixed on the person she was addressing. The casual gesture added a touch of nonchalance to her demeanor, as if she were engrossed in the conversation and completely at ease in the moment. Edward showed a strained smile, attempting to downplay his discomfort. I'm just walking around, he replied, trying to brush off any concerns. Oh, Taylor responded, her tone tinged with a hint of disinterest.
The atmosphere grew awkward, and the air turned silent.
Unbeknownst to Edward, Taylor was preoccupied with the looming conversation about her behavior of moving near his house. Her heart raced, and her palms grew nervous as the weight of the pending discussion weighed on her mind. Meanwhile, Edward's focus was entirely consumed by the news he had received about his father's health issues. The talk that Taylor had been anxious about was completely overshadowed by this new concern.
Breaking the uncomfortable silence, Selena interjected with genuine concern, Are you okay, Edward? Do you feel tired? Should we head back now? Edward, still lost in his thoughts, nodded absent-mindedly. Maybe.
My arms are hurting, he replied, absent-mindedly massaging his arms.
Selena exchanged a concerned glance with Taylor, recognizing that something was amiss. Sensing the need for a shift in attention, Selena gently suggested, "Why don't we take a break and find a quiet place to sit? We can book a hotel room." It was convenient as they were inside a hotel right now. Tyler heard the conversation, snickered about the girl's invitation, but he didn't crack a joke about it. He stood up on his chair, earning him boos again from the people who didn't want him to hold a team-building game. "Shut up. It's not about that," Tyler exclaimed, silencing the room. "I'm here on behalf of Ed. He has to go now." Unlike us, he was working like a madman from yesterday and didn't have any rest until now. But he kept staying here for us, so Tyler Banks is currently issuing a formal order as the captain of the team. Tyler turned to Edward and said, "Go home and get some rest." Tyrone, rising from his seat, added a playful tease, "Finally, a reasonable order from the captain. You should listen to him. Who knows when he will finally do something good next?" Edward, surprised at first, chuckled and replied, "Yeah, it might be his only good call. We should honor it." "Shut up, you bastards. Listen to the captain," Tyler shouted in anger. The entire team burst into laughter, finding amusement in Tyler's outburst. After the light-hearted moment, Edward left the hotel banquet hall accompanied by Taylor and Selena, and they went straight back home. While on the road, Selena, who was sitting in the rumble seat or rear seat, checked her phone and tried to initiate a conversation. "Ed, your shirtless video where you got poured with jug water now has more than 1 million likes," she said, sharing the surprising news. A loyal and fanatical fan managed to capture a moment from Edward's team's short celebration after the match ended and posted it on social media. In the video, Edward's sweaty, muscular six-pack body was prominently displayed, causing a stir among many girls who couldn't help but feel restless. The impact of the video lingered beyond that night, affecting the sleep of countless girls who found themselves thinking about it for many nights thereafter. Taylor chuckled at the revelation and asked out of curiosity, "How many views did it get?" 10 million views, Selena replied, shaking her head. "Seems like a lot of people are interested in that kind of thing. Perverts." Edward couldn't help but chuckle at the attention the video garnered and playfully asked, "Did you like the video?" Selena's expression turned slightly flustered as she was caught off guard by the question. Slowly moving her finger on the screen, she replied unconvincingly, "No, I didn't." Taylor, picking up on Selena's hesitant response, teased, "I can see your finger moving. You took back the like, didn't you?" Blushing, Selena denied it, "No, I didn't." She tried to maintain her composure, but her blush gave away her true actions. However, her blush made Taylor feel a bit alarmed and possessive. She hugged Edward's arm while he was driving and asked, "Well, if it was me, I will make sure to like it, and absolutely tell others that I love it." Selena rolled her eyes back and retorted, "Yeah, 'cause you're a pervert." Taylor snorted, taken aback by Selena's remark, and quickly fired back, "Really? Then tell me, who was the one who ate her cereal topless this morning? Me or you?" Edward chuckled for a bit, but he couldn't really join in the bickering. They arrived home in just 15 minutes, and then when Edward walked Taylor to her door, she asked, "Do you want to come in? It was the first time I've seen you get nervous." "Unfortunately, I have to say no for today. I'm really tired right now." Taylor felt a bit relieved and said, "Oh, okay. Good night." "Good night," Edward replied while waving his hand. They refrained from sharing a kiss, mindful of being in a public space and the possibility of someone lurking in the bushes, waiting to capture the scene. Taylor stood by the door, her gaze fixed on Edward's retreating figure, her heart palpitating with the hope of experiencing a movie-like moment. In her mind, she imagined Edward turning towards her, his eyes filled with longing and affection, just like in the romantic scenes she had seen on the big screen. She pictured a tender exchange, a stolen glance that would cement their connection and leave her breathless. However, as reality played out, Taylor's hopes were dashed. Edward walked straight back into his house without even once turning to look at her. The absence of that longing gaze or a stolen glance left her feeling disappointed and a bit disheartened. With a mix of emotions, Taylor closed the door behind her, her mind filled with a whirlwind of longing and confusion.
It was a reminder that real life often falls short of the romanticized scenes depicted in movies, and that she needed to manage her expectations accordingly.
Selena was walking by at this moment and chuckled as she saw Taylor's disappointed look. He didn't look back, did he? Taylor shot Selena a glare. Her disappointment was momentarily shelved. Shut up. Don't make me get to the fact that you went topless in front of Ed. I spilled some milk. It wasn't on purpose. Selena defended herself grievously, her voice filled with mock despair. Edward took a deep breath in front of the door, gathering his composure before entering the house. As he stepped inside, he found his father, Ted, and Frankie sitting on the living room sofa. Deciding to play it cool, Edward pretended he was unaware of what had transpired and greeted them casually, saying, "Hi. Enjoy your date?" Ted, still wearing a fatigued smile on his face, replied, "Yeah, it went better than expected." Edward continued his act, feigning curiosity. "Really? Where did you guys go? Maybe I can go there if I have a girlfriend." Ted was caught off guard by Edward's question. Frankie, quick on her feet, jumped in to help, saying, "Oh, we just went to the amusement park, right, Ted?" Ted, feeling the pressure, stammered nervously, Yeah. Yeah, right. We went there." Edward smiled, seemingly satisfied with their response, and Ted felt a wave of relief wash over him. However, Edward's next sentence sent a shock through Ted's system, shattering his relief. "Really? I didn't know that the renowned Johns Hopkins Hospital had an amusement park inside," he said, his smile turned cold. Ted's face turned pale as the realization of his failed attempt to deceive his son sank in. The room fell silent, the tension palpable as Ted tried to come up with a response, his mind racing to find an explanation for his earlier statement. Frankie stammered nervously, you know?" Edward's hurt tone cut through the air as he replied, "Yeah, I know everything. Even the 20% rot on your liver. I'm disappointed in you both. I thought that you guys could trust me. But I thought wrong." Ted's eyes shook, and he let out a sigh. "I should have told you, but I was afraid," he admitted, his voice filled with remorse. Edward's eyes softened, understanding Ted's fear, but the discomfort he felt couldn't be easily dismissed. The living room fell into an uncomfortable silence, heavy with unspoken emotions. Then, Edward broke the silence, shifting the topic. "The new music video is up now. I'm going to bed. You should go send Frankie home." Ted nodded, acknowledging Edward's request. "Yeah, I should." Frankie, feeling bewildered and frustrated, couldn't remain silent. "That's it? Ted, tell him about how anxious you feel when you have that cancer scare. You guys can't brush this off so easily." Edward, feeling overwhelmed and tired, turned a deaf ear to Frankie's plea. "I'm too tired right now. Maybe in the future," he said, trying to dismiss the conversation. Frankie's frustration grew, and she replied sarcastically, "And then never get back to that. I know you, Ed. You won't even go near a difficult conversation." Edward attempted to protest, but Frankie interrupted, her tone filled with determination. "That's it. I'm telling your therapist about this, and in the next session, it will be a group session with the two of you. Tomorrow." Edward's objections were met with a sarcastic response from Frankie, "Hey. I'm too tired to listen to your objections right now. Maybe in the future." Chapter 200, Woohoo, Lazy Sunday. Edward POV. I woke up around 3 a.m. after going straight to sleep when I got home last night. At first, I tried to fall asleep naturally, but I was tortured with some thoughts, therefore I activated my rest skill to help me. When I was going downstairs to get a glass of water, I bumped into my father in the kitchen doing the same thing. He raised his glass at me and said awkwardly, "Oh, you decided to share a drink with your dear old dad? That old part is true." I said seriously, making him baffled. "And since you can only drink water from now on to the end of your life, I guess sharing a drink here is accurate in context." My dad let out a snort, a mixture of surprise and amusement evident on his face. I took a seat in front of him, holding my own cup of water. For a while, we sat in silence, each lost in our own thoughts.
Eventually, my dad broke the silence. "I didn't mean to hide it from you," he said, his voice tinged with regret. Quickly interrupting him, I reassured him, "You don't have to explain anything to me." I realized that I was just acting out earlier. "Of course, you wouldn't want to tell me. No one wants to burden their family with bad news, especially when it was unconfirmed." My dad's face fell into disappointment as my words sank in. He reached his hand out to gently rub my hair and said, "Still, I'm sorry. And you should act out more. Don't hold back your feelings. Don't be like you." I finished his sentence, my voice soft but filled with a mix of understanding and sadness. "It's too late now to change," I added as I sipped my drink. "I'm locking up your liquor cabinet, and will be giving the cheaper ones to the people we know." "What about the expensive ones?" he asked, confusion evident on his face, as he tried to ignore the bitter taste in his mouth. "That's for me," I replied, a mischievous smile playing on my lips. "What?" he exclaimed, completely baffled by my response. For after I come of age, of course, I lied through my teeth, trying to maintain a serious expression. Despite the fib, my acting skills managed to trick my dad, at least for the moment. Also, this whole thing got me thinking. I brought up a new topic. What will I do when, and I'm not wishing for it to happen, when you know, left the world, aka worm food, aka went missing and not found, before I became an adult? That's a heavy topic to talk about. My dad joked to lighten the mood. What do you have in mind? I was thinking. I hesitated for a bit, but realized that I had to go through with this, about emancipation. The color drained from my dad's face, leaving it pale and stricken. Despite his visible shock, he nodded, trying to pretend he was okay. His voice trembled as he spoke, the cracks revealing his vulnerability. "So, you don't want me as a dad?" I rolled my eyes at him and stressed out, "After. Not before. Just hire a trusted attorney to take care of it if it ever happens. Or else, I will be in a lot of trouble." "Oh. Like, Batman?" my dad guessed. "Exactly. Alfred takes care of Bruce's assets, preventing anyone from stealing them. I don't exactly need an Alfred, but in this scenario, since I am related to Batman, having a butler doesn't sound so bad," I said with an intrigued glint in my eyes, playing along with the reference. My dad shuddered for a moment, then let out a laugh. With a mock-serious tone, he replied, "You're not going to hire someone to shoot me behind a bowling alley just so you can become Batman, right? Bowling? Shouldn't it be a theater? But, if that is what it takes to bring the world the Caped Crusader, then rest assured, your heroic act won't ever be forgotten by the citizens of Los Angeles." My dad stood up as he went to wash his empty glass, playfully smacked the back of my head, a mischievous grin on his face. He scoffed and jokingly remarked, "If there's any comic book character you'll be, it's the Joker." Rubbing the spot where he had smacked me, I pretended to be offended. "Hey now, I think I can be a hero too, not just a villain," I protested, trying to maintain a straight face. My dad, taking on the role of a wise mentor, continued with a playful tone. "Before you become a villain, I guess I should be the guiding character to help you stay on the right path. Well, young Padawan, just remember, with great powers." He paused, expecting me to complete the quote. However, I decided to surprise him with a twist. "Comes great responsibility. With that, comes even greater sacrifice," I finished the sentence, deviating from his expectations. My dad's eyes widened in astonishment as he processed my response. "Is that what the full quote is?" I nodded as confirmation. He then said, "Then, forget about that. You have already sacrificed enough when you're younger. Just be selfish. Be a villain if you want. I won't even care. I will support you no matter what. Darth Prankius." The warm feeling inside me disappeared when I heard the nickname. "Did Alex tell you about that?" I asked with dissatisfaction. "Tell me what?" My dad acted dumb. "All right, I'm going to sleep." I stood up in irritation before I walked to my room. "Good night." "Wait. Ed." My dad stopped me.
Even though I couldn't be there, I watched your game the moment I got back from the hospital. You played really well. I'm proud of you. I never knew that you had it in you.
When you're younger, you usually get scared when the ball is flying at you, but I guess you'd outgrown that.
My face blushed a bit and I emphasized, yeah. I was 4 years old back then. Of course I'm going to be scared. He laughed and said, I promise that I won't miss your next game.
I shrugged, trying to maintain my facade of indifference.
I don't care,
I replied, attempting to brush off his comment. Unbeknownst to me, however, a small smile tugged at the corners of my lips, betraying my true feelings. After getting in my room, I couldn't fall asleep anymore, so I decided to play some games. I put on my headphones and played Dota. Not surprisingly, Abraham was up all night from playing the game, so we played together.
I need Dota too. I sighed after winning the match easily. Robin, how's the progress for the Unreal Engine 4 going? I asked my AI as I waited for my next match.
I had studied the entire program, and the progress of advancement is stuck at 44% as I have insufficient data about lighting and material reflection.
I instructed Robin, send an email to the game division manager with the parameters you need.
Oh, but wait until after the weekend.
We shouldn't bother him outside of working hours.
Robin informed me he's still at the workplace, trying to finish up the Angry Birds games. Surprised by this dedication, I found myself distracted as a Nerubian assassin attempted to sneak up on my skeleton mage character. However, relying on my parallel thinking, I quickly foiled the sneak attack. Refocusing on the conversation, I instructed Robin, tell him to stop and go home.
He has a daughter and a beautiful wife. You can handle finishing up the game, right? Robin reassured me, since the game is nearly complete, it won't strain my processing capabilities.
However, for future commands, I'll need an overall hardware upgrade to meet the demands.
I responded with a smile, don't worry, Robin.
When my order arrives, I'll spend some time building interesting tech for you. Believe it or not, I got it from the future where humans have already achieved interstellar travel.
Robin replied innocently, I'll always believe in you, sir.
As I chuckled at Robin's response, I decided to wrap up my Dota session. It was already approaching 5 a.m., and I planned to get some rest before starting my busy Sunday. Before calling it a night, I took a moment to check on a newly released music video that I had been involved in. To my delight, I discovered that the music video was already garnering significant attention. It had reached an impressive milestone of 20 million views within just one day. I couldn't help but attribute a portion of its success to my skills in media manipulation, which had helped generate buzz and drive engagement. Furthermore, as I perused the comments section, I was pleased to find that the overall response was overwhelmingly positive and supportive. It was rewarding to see that the hard work and efforts put into the project had resonated well with the audience. Some of the YouTube comments made me chuckle and I was grateful for the support.
Lily Fan Club Leader.
I just realized Ed dumped Taylor for Taylor.
Laughing emoji.
Daddy Tucker, the introduction made me feel like I was watching a drama, but better. Replying to Daddy Tucker, yeah, especially the part where they were looking at each other.
It attracted me immediately.
Texas girl, Taylor.
Come to Texas.
Jane Rhonda, Taylor definitely read a lot of fanfiction.
James Curtis, it's amazing.
Especially when you consider the fact that they made the music video themselves.
Both of them are amazing artists.
As I continued reading through the overwhelmingly positive comments on the music video, a sense of skepticism began to creep in. It seemed unusual that there wasn't a single negative comment among the hundreds of comments I had read so far. Even in my previous music video, Grenades, there had been a couple of negative comments amidst the positive ones. Curiosity piqued, I turned to Robin, seeking an explanation for this anomaly.
Robin, did I ask you to do something regarding the comments on the video?
I asked, my confusion evident in my voice. Robin responded, shedding light on the situation, no, you didn't specifically ask me to do anything. However, devoted fan club members and Miss Taylor's fan club members have collaborated to moderate the comments section.
They have been actively working together to remove excessively negative comments from the video. It was heartening to know that my fans and Taylor's fans had taken it upon themselves to create a positive and supportive environment in the comments section. Their joint effort to remove excessive negativity showcased the strength and unity within our fan communities. Or, was this the part where future historians would refer to when our cult grew too big? I don't know, and I don't want to worry about it. The sun had already come out. I went for a jog and did a morning workout before showering and getting ready for my radio interview today. Robin, search the Riot Games database and find out if they have any records on League of Legends. I swear they are going to release it soon, but there's no news about it. I asked as I was buttoning my shirt. Some bandages could be seen underneath my shirt as I had put some ointment on the bruises I received from the football match yesterday. As I prepared for the day, I carefully selected my outfit. I opted for a loose beige shirt, appreciating its casual yet stylish appeal. I tucked the front of the shirt into my black pleated trousers. The combination of beige and black created a sleek contrast that exuded a sense of sophistication. Robin replied as I was getting ready, Riot Games is currently having some financial difficulties. They are optimistic about the game, but it would be hard for them to finalize it. Are they searching for investors? I asked. Not yet. However, it was mentioned in the company meeting. Robin replied. Oh boy, privacy is just a thin piece of paper for me to pierce, isn't it? I joked to myself. Let Harvey contact Mark to set up a meeting. I am prepared to let loose some money to buy the company if they want to sell it. Of course, using Musk's method to buy Twitter. By staking out his shares in Tesla, Musk would be able to secure the necessary funds to acquire Twitter. This approach allows him to participate in a potential acquisition without requiring a direct cash outlay from his own pocket. That would save me a lot of tax money if I decided to buy a company. The method was highly praised by Harvey after I told about it. However, my current reputation and company value was growing. Instagram was valued at $400 million recently, and my gaming industry, where I had released Flappy Bird, Quasi Cupcakes, which was a Candy Crush parallel world counterpart, and a few mini-games, was valued barely at $100 million. Until the era of 4G communication comes, and the smartphone uses become widespread, it'll stay that way for a while. If I added Entertain and my dad's current tourism company into the Freya company that is currently venturing into high-end Airbnb ventures and food services, I am a man worth more than $1 billion. Too bad that's only the worth. My finances are almost in the red right now. I chuckled to myself as I knew I was joking while posing in front of the full-body mirror. With Robin, I could steal $1 from every bank account on the planet, or empty out some CEO tax evaders' hidden stash without them even knowing it. I just didn't do it because I still have morale. Legally, with my acquisition of Netflix and recontracting some shows' license for me to broadcast it longer, and making it almost impossible for the company who owns the show to pull it out of the platform without forking out a huge penalty and a long trial process. This way, I won't lose some of the good shows during the golden age of streaming. So, I had little cash flow to venture into a new business opportunity right now. But, I have my grandma. I'm sure she'll be glad if I stake my company's shares for her in exchange for some cash flow. I told Robin. Your grandmother in Wisconsin, sir? Robin asked. She barely has $10,000 in her bank account. Well, her assets are mostly in land and gold. No. My other grandma. Eve Saltzman. She is listed as Sugar Grandma in my contact list. That reminds me, she wants to meet me for dinner today. Get the details from her. Thank you, Robin. To complete my ensemble, I reached for my favorite orange-tinted pair of sunglasses. As I chose a Rolex watch, I walked towards the kitchen where I met my aunt there. Hey! I greeted casually. Before I could say anything else, she grabbed me by the shoulder and asked anxiously, Is your father dying? Yeah. I replied nonchalantly. She didn't realize my tone and was shaking. She mumbled, I need to tell Miranda, and make her come home. What? No. I interrupted her quickly.
It was my turn to be anxious. I reassured her with a hurried tone, my dad isn't dying. But there's a problem with his liver. He just needs to change his diet and he'll be fine. After explaining the situation to my aunt and taking the time to calm her down, I noticed a hint of sadness in her eyes as she uttered something unusual, thank God. I can't afford to lose any more of my family members. What was that? I asked her with suspicion. Nothing. She shook her head while denying she had said something. I made breakfast for her and my dad, who was sleeping in as he slept late last night, before walking towards the house next door. However, no one opened the door after I rang the doorbell and knocked on it for a while. I was confused, therefore I called Taylor. Oh yeah. I meant to call you. The radio interview was an hour ago. Taylor said with a chuckle. I remembered you're too tired and bruised up, so I talked to the host about it and went alone. You're the one who talked to him? I asked as I called her out. Knowing her, there's no way she could pull this out by herself despite feeling a bit warm inside. Well, I asked Harvey, and my new assistant did it. Taylor replied hesitantly. Oh, Rachel Cad Becky. She's finally your assistant, huh? I said with a comforting tone. Then, I changed to my dejected tone, if you wanted me to rest, you should have just told me. I'd been up since 4 a.m. What? No. I'm sorry. Taylor apologized quickly. I laughed at her reaction, and then I suddenly heard some noise coming from the inside of her house. Is there someone inside your house? I asked. Well, Selena is there. But I don't think she has woken up yet. Why don't you use your spare key to get inside? She has to be at the film set this afternoon, so wake her up. Taylor said. Oh, and don't let her mother pick her up. They are in a fight, that's why she's staying with me. I was confused, I don't have a spare key. Ah. I left it at your home. It's a pink key. Taylor replied. I walked back to my house while still on the phone with Taylor. I asked her about how the interview went, and she said that it went pretty well. The fans were calling all morning to talk to her about the new song, and most questions were basically about the two of us. After I returned back to her house, she had to cut the call because she was having another interview with another radio show host. Thankfully, all of it was in the same building. When finished with the radio interviews, she would be entering talk shows to promote her new song. She would only be back home late at night. You just need to rest today. Leave it all to me. She said confidently. I chuckled and said, of course. I'll leave it all to you, and we'll make sure to record the talk shows to watch together later. Taylor turned shy and she said, wait. No. Watch it first. I don't want to see it. Her reaction made me wonder what she had actually talked about in the show. But, I just shrugged the thought and decided to listen to her interviews at lunch. If I was bored, then I could just ask Robin to type out the transcript and read it quickly instead of watching it. When I entered the house, I shouted, Selena. Make sure you're decent. I'm inside the house. Or you can still go topless. Your choice. Somebody threw a plush pillow at my face from the living room after I shouted that. I avoided it and chuckled before walking towards the girl lying down on the sofa. She has puffy eyes and tear marks on the side of her eye. I was concerned and I asked, what's wrong? You didn't even get up to open the door when I knocked. She looked at me with a complicated expression and said, it's all your fault. My test results came back. I got lupus. I was taken aback by the accusation, and before I could react, Selena grabbed my shirt with a shaky hand and said, I'm sorry. You were trying to help. She lowered her head before she started crying. I hugged her sideways to comfort her and listened to her emotional outburst for a while. Well, it has no cure, for now. I replied to her question while rubbing my hand on her shoulder. But we don't know what's going to happen in the future. She hesitated to nod, and then she looked at me while I was still comforting her. I looked at her face, and before I could say anything, Selena leaned in and kissed me on the lip. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System and Modern Family World.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned.
Quick reminder.
The series What If Transmigrated in Bleach World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I will be using the second most popular among the fanfics on the previous poll as the replacement for the series What If Transmigrated in Bleach World. As such, please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.